fine. It makes no difference to me because the words that are spoken are either true or not true on their own.
Okay,
the authorship of Matthew is, or any of the Gospels, is such that the only sense in which it matters who the author was is whether or not we're going to claim that this was an eyewitness to it. Not that having an eyewitness necessarily makes the claims true, but there is definitely a reduction in reliability between an eyewitness and hearsay of an eyewitness. Wouldn't you agree with that?
I would agree, but I wouldn't say secondhand evidence is we can't totally throw out secondhand evidence.
And when did I say that?
I was just clarifying. I didn't say you said that or anything.
Okay, fair enough. I wouldn't say that either. So at least there's one little area that we agree on. So now we've got a book, for example, Matthew. In most books, most accounts that we would assess historically, it wouldn't matter to me who the author was. It wouldn't matter to anybody. It might be nice to know who the author was, and it could be reported by somebody else that this guy was an actual eyewitness. But then when we go and investigate, there is the issue of why would an eyewitness rely so heavily on other accounts, which I know you're eager to answer that. I'll let you get to it in a second. But when you address this, it's one thing to say that from the standpoint of normal historical methods and validation, I find that the claim of authorship is justified. And somebody else could say that I find the claim of authorship is not justified.
And that's what the debate is about.
That's what the debate is about. And I'm stating that I'm of the opinion, based on what I've read, that there is sufficient reason to question the authorship.
I know, that's why I'm calling.
And that's all I claimed in that video. And you're admitting that there's a debate about this, which was all I was claiming. And I even got specific and said I don't want to get into the issue of the historicity of Jesus or the specifics about the authorship, because all I'm saying is that you cannot claim that this is necessarily so. And if you then go and expand to not only, as many believers do, claim that this is necessarily the author, but then to extend that to this necessarily happened, you have committed a huge violation, at least by my standards, of what one should do when assessing evidence for claims.
No, not at all. Now, what the debate is about is, by these historical criteria, did Matthew write Matthew? And I say yes. I say there is absolutely extremely good reason.
And I say I don't know.
I know you say that.
So why did you get so upset? Because I said I don't know.
Dude, I wasn't upset. Someone asked me to respond to it. Okay?
Well, why did you attack me as if I said that he didn't, when you know I said I don't know?
Because you said we don't know who wrote it, and that's essentially a claim that we have no idea who wrote it.
No, it's not a claim.
Okay,
it's not a claim that we have no idea. It's not a claim that there's no debate. It's not a claim that there's no discussion. It was a claim that I don't know who wrote it, and neither does anyone else, at least existing. Somebody probably knows who wrote it. You're convinced that you know who the author is. You've been convinced by some set of evidence. Not everybody's convinced. There is a debate, as you've already admitted. You knew that my position was I don't know, and yet you debunked it as if I asserted, in your own words, that we have no idea. Why did you do that? Why so dishonestly?
No, it wasn't dishonest. It
was.
Could I respond? My rebuttal was to you said, well, I don't know who wrote it. We don't have enough evidence to determine who wrote it.
Right.
Right. And so I was saying, no, not true at all. Let's look at your reasons why it's questionable. Let's debunk those. Then let's look at some of the positive reasons why we do know who wrote it.
You didn't.
And
you didn't debunk them.
Yes, I did.
You asserted positions the opposite. But I want to be as fair to you as possible.
Okay.
So give the YouTube account where you posted this video so the viewers from this show can go watch and see what your rebuttal was. Okay. And we'll also make sure that there's a link up to the specific episode that you're addressing. So when you make fun of me with your pseudo-mongoloid voice, they can actually go watch the original video to see that I did nothing of the kind. So what's the YouTube channel?
The YouTube channel is youtube.com/Kabane the Christian. The YouTube video is entitled A Reply to the Atheist Experience on Matthew.
Yep. All right, there you go. And we'll see about getting a link up with the other video. But Tommy, for now at least, That's way more of the show. There's 2 other people on hold that have been on hold for a long time, and Don's got a topic to go to, and we're getting nowhere.
Thanks for taking my call.
Sure, thanks. I wasn't sure that Tommy was necessarily going to call in. Somebody pointed me to the video where he decided to debunk something that I didn't say and then go on. But in any case, you can go...
So this is a YouTube response to some clip that...
To a clip
from one of our shows?
Yeah, okay. Where I talked briefly.
Yeah.
Briefly.
I should mention that we have almost 800 clips that our fans have put up.
Wow.
It's just astounding. Thank you.
Yes. And by the way, the short YouTube clips are the ones that seem to draw in the most people, which means the clip of that discussion will never make it on YouTube. And I apologize.
You might be surprised.
This is something that I want. Let me touch on this for a minute. I don't want to talk through the whole show. You can get back to your stuff, and we'll take more calls. The show's been on for about 11 years. I've been doing this for 4 and some change
years,
approximately years. We get lots and lots and lots of email, and some of it is laudatory, some of it is critical, some of it is pointing out mistakes that we've made in the past. And I've repeatedly thanked people for pointing out mistakes. We will, if it's a serious enough mistake, correct it. But I go out of my way on many occasions to put on my Christian hat and play theist advocate. When, for example, and I hate to keep picking on Don, if Don comes on and starts talking about something and it goes a step or so further than I think it should from the standpoint of a Christian about maybe painting people with a broad brush, I jump in. When it comes to claims of the historicity of Jesus or the authorship of the Bible or any of those things, I'm not a historian, don't claim to be. Matter of fact, I don't claim to be an expert on anything except my opinion. And I'm fairly decent at explaining how I got to my opinion. Far from an expert even at that. But when I come on and I bend over backwards to say, you know what, here's the NIV, this is what it says about the authorship of Matthew, and this is something that isn't known by most Christians, because most Christians just assume Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, they were written by the apostles.
Some serious biblical scholars that have done that, right?
And right there, I mean, go crack open an NIV, read what it says about authorship. Go to Wikipedia. It's generally reliable on subjects like this. Read what it says about authorship. My only position was it is unjustified, in my opinion, to assert that the author is X if we don't have sufficient evidence to say that. And if there's Bibles printed that say we don't have sufficient evidence to say that, and there are debates, as even the person who wanted to disagree with me admits that there are, then my statement was completely justified. And if you go watch his clip, you'll see that he'll claim that he debunks everything, and in actuality, he simply asserts. When I point out that there's no contemporary eyewitness testimony to any event in the life of Jesus, this old tired canard has been debunked I don't know how many times, it's nonsense. And that's it. He does not explain why the lack of contemporary evidence, he doesn't, as a matter of fact, he doesn't dispute that, but he doesn't explain why it's tired. And it's not tired.
It might be tired to him because he doesn't have anything to say.
The fact of the matter is, if the only reports of Elvis we had were written 5 years ago, and people were claiming he was still alive, it would be completely justifiable to say that there are no contemporary accounts. Actually, Elvis is probably a bad pick because we're close. George Washington. If we had no record of George Washington and no conversations about him, and not even any claims of any eyewitness testimony until 65 years ago, it would be justifiable to say, you know what, we don't have any accounts written during the time that he was supposedly alive. We can't even be sure that the claims of eyewitness accounts are coming from eyewitness. Anyway, that's way too much time.
King Arthur's a fine example, right?
Yeah, and there were plenty of people who believed, Paul Bunyan and other things, that were, just because your particular mythology became incredibly popular. And by the way, I'm going to have to look into whether or not there's miracle claims in the Quran, because I'm not going to accept your word for it, and the same reason I'm not going to accept the anonymous author of the book of Matthew when he says that zombies got up and crawled into Jerusalem. Brains.
You can't win with original sin.